Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. EU leaders Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa to arrive in India ahead of Republic Day celebrations. India-EU FTA on cards along with defence partnership. No peace deal reached as Russia-Ukraine officials along with US delegation meet in UAE. Talks to resume today. Pressure mounts on Iran over killing of protesters as United States imposes sanctions on its shadow fleet. Weekend winter storm inches closer to United States as several parts expected to be blanketed under snow. Emergency imposed in several states. The President of the European Council, Antonio Luis Santos da Costa, and President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, will arrive in India today. The top EU leaders will be visiting India at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The leaders will be the chief guests at the 77th Republic Day celebrations. During the visit, the leaders will also co-chair the 16th India-EU Summit on January 27. During the visit, President Costa and President von der Leyen will meet President Draupadi Murmu and hold restricted and delegation-level talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. An India-EU Business Forum is also expected to be organized on the sidelines of the India-EU Summit. India and European Union are strategic partners since 2004. The 15th India-EU Summit was held virtually on 15th of July 2020. Bilateral ties have expanded and deepened across a wide range of areas, particularly following the historic visit of EU College of Commissioners to India in February 2025. Participation of EU leaders as chief guests at the 77th Republic Day and the 16th India-EU Summit will further deepen the India-EU strategic partnership and advance collaboration in priority areas of mutual interest. The High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of the European Commission, Kaja Kallas, arrived in India. The visit comes at an opportune moment to further strengthen the India-EU strategic partnership, building on the momentum of regular high-level engagements. Earlier on January 21, 2026, the EU's highest-ranking diplomat, Kaja Kallas, noted that EU is among India's largest trading partners and described India as indispensable to Europe's economic resilience.
The EU and India are moving closer together at the time when the rules-based international order is under unprecedented pressure through wars, coercion and economic fragmentation. Two major democracies cannot afford to hesitate. We must become more ambitious partners.
She also announced that both India and EU agreed to sign a new security and defense partnership covering maritime security, cybersecurity and counter-terrorism.
We aim to conclude negotiations on the EU-India Free Trade Agreement. This deal will open markets, remove barriers and strengthen critical supply chains in clean technologies, pharmaceuticals and semiconductors. Second, today we agreed to move forward with the signature of a new EU-India security and defense partnership in areas like maritime security, cybersecurity and counterterrorism. We will also launch negotiations on a security of information agreement. In a more dangerous world, we will both gain from working closer together. We also intend to conclude a memorandum of understanding on comprehensive framework on cooperation on mobility. This will facilitate movement for seasonal workers, students, researchers and highly skilled professionals while promoting research and innovation.
The free trade agreement between India and the European Union has reached a decisive stage. In the coming days, both sides are expected to sign this deal. This agreement is being described as the mother of all deals. On one hand, Europe will gain access to a large market like India, while on the other, Indian products will find easier access to a major part of the world. Through this report, let us explain why this agreement is being called the mother of all deals.
India and the European Union are very close to concluding a historic free trade agreement. After several years of negotiations between the two sides, this agreement has been finalized. The free trade agreement between India and EU is being described in global diplomacy and business world as the mother of all deals. The reason is not just its size, but also its economic, strategic, and geopolitical significance.
I will travel to India. There's still work to do, but we are on the cusp of a historic trade agreement. Indeed, some call it the mother of all deals. One that would create a market of 2 billion people, accounting for almost a quarter of global GDP. And crucially, that would provide a first-mover advantage for Europe, with one of the world's fastest growing and most dynamic continents.
In fact, this deal is being called mother of all deals because after long negotiations, agreement has reached a decisive stage, one of the world's largest and most complex trade agreements. Agreement between two of the world's largest markets. European Union has a population of around 450 million, an economy worth more than $17 trillion. India, on the other hand, has a population of 1.4 billion and is the world's fastest growing major economy. This is not just an FTA, but a package of multiple deals. Along with the FTA, it includes aspects such as investment, digital trade, data protection, and green energy. Reaching the agreement at a decisive stage involved facing several challenges, as Europe is strict on environmental standards, labor laws, and data protection, while India has been very cautious regarding farmers, dairy sector, MSMEs, and policy autonomy. It is important to note that EU is the most regulated market in the world. Therefore, this is not just a trade agreement, but is set to become a new framework for global economy in the 21st century. Bureau Report, DD India.
As the President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, and President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, will soon be arriving in India, Ministry of External Affairs shared some of the highlights of the strategic and multifaceted India-EU relations. Union Minister for Electronics and Information Technology Ashwini Vaishnav visited the headquarters of the ASML in the Netherlands. Speaking during the visit, the minister said that India has started a new semiconductor industry and that lithography, which involves printing the circuit on the wafer, is the most complex and precision-intensive process in the entire semiconductor manufacturing chain.
Conductor mission on 1st Jan 2022, we had taken a target that within 5 years we should start the commercial production. Very glad to say that the first commercial production will start in 2026 itself. Actually, 4 of the plants will start their commercial production in 2026. The pilot production have started already in 3 plants in 2025 itself. Now the equipment manufacturers are coming to India.
He also shared India's strength in AI, which is very consistent across the 5 layers of the AI stack.
India's strength in AI is very consistent across the 5 layers of the AI stack. Application layer, we will become the leaders. Models are today, our sovereign models are getting developed, which are very good and which have the capability of solving 95% of the problems. The committed investment, which might grow up to $150 billion as we approach the AI Impact Summit, and the final energy layer. All the 5 layers we are working very consistently.
In an effort to break the impasse, Russian, Ukrainian and US negotiators have held talks in the United Arab Emirates, the first meeting attended by all 3 countries in 4 years. Officials met in Abu Dhabi to tackle the vital issue of territory with no sign of a compromise as Russian airstrikes plunged Ukraine into its worst energy crisis of the nearly 4-year conflict. The tripartite talks brokered by the US are unfolding against a backdrop of intensified Russian strikes on Ukraine's energy system that have cut power and heating to major cities such as Kiev as temperatures dip well below freezing. However, the key sticking point in the trilateral meeting remains territorial issues, including Russia's demand that Ukraine give up to the 20% of the Donetsk region, which Kiev still controls. While Zelensky refused to give up land that Russia has not been able to capture in 4 years, polls show little appetite among Ukrainians for territorial concessions. Donetsk is one of 4 Ukrainian regions. Moscow said in 2022 it was annexing after referendums rejected by Kiev and Western nations as bogus. The United States on Friday has imposed a new series of sanctions targeting Iran's shadow fleet said to be supporting the country's oil exports as Washington steps up pressure over the government's crackdown on protesters. In a statement, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the officials directly tied the sanctions on the 9 vessels and their respective owners for management firms. In fact, the department said the fleet collectively transported hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Iranian oil and petroleum products to foreign markets. The Treasury said the revenue belongs to the Iranian people but is instead diverted to fund Iran's regional terrorist proxies, weapons programs and security services instead of basic economic services the Iranian people have bravely demanded. Meanwhile, a senior Iranian official on Friday said Iran will treat any attack as an all-out war ahead of the arrival of a U.S. military aircraft carrier, a strike group and other assets in the Middle East in the coming days. Speaking on condition of anonymity, officials said that the military build-up, they hope it is not intended for real confrontation as their military is ready for the worst-case scenario. Earlier, U.S. President Donald Trump said that United States has an armada heading towards Iran but hoped he would not have to use it as he renewed warnings to Tehran against killing protesters or restarting its nuclear program. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Prime Minister Narendra Modi distributes over 61,000 appointment letters to newly recruited youth at the 18th Rozgar Mela in New Delhi. We will tell you about figure skating, which made its debut at the 6th edition of the Khelo India Winter Games.
76 years ago, India chose not just freedom, but a republic.
India, that is Bharat, shall be a sovereign democratic republic.
An idea shaped by debate, strengthened by diversity, and guided by the Constitution. From democratic roots to linguistic federalism, from social justice to global leadership. This is India, a voice of the global South, a voice for the world. Watch our Republic Day special, India, Democracy in Motion, on 26 January at these times, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday distributed over 61,000 appointment letters to newly recruited youth at the 18th Rozgar Mela held in New Delhi. Addressing the program virtually, the Prime Minister said the appointment letters were an invitation to nation building and reminded the youth of their duty towards the Constitution.
युवाओं को कौशल से जोड़ना और उन्हें रोजगार, स्वरोजगार के अवसर देना, ये हमारी सरकार की प्राथमिकता रही है। सरकारी भर्तियों को भी कैसे मिशन मोड पर किया जाए, इसके लिए रोजगार मेले की शुरुआत की गई थी। बीते वर्षों में रोजगार मेला एक इंस्टीट्यूशन बन गया है। इसके जरिए लाखों युवाओं को सरकार के अलग अलग विभागों में नियुक्ति पत्र मिल चुके हैं।
Indian Army will display its flying skills with the killing machine, the Apache helicopters, on this Republic Day for the very first time. This formation is part of a revamped fly-past designed to showcase a phased battle array, where aircraft are grouped to represent how they would actually be deployed in a combat scenario. DD India correspondent Vishal Baristo brings you this exclusive report.
Indian Army is participating in the Republic Day parade. As you can see, this is the pride of Indian Army, the Apache helicopters, and I have with me the team who are going to fly the Garud formation, and the team leader is Colonel Vikrant Sharma. Let's talk to him and find out. Colonel Vikrant, when we talk about Garud formation, what is it?
So basically, Garud formation signifies the Garud Bhagwana in, as we say in our mythology. And we are the two helicopter formation which are flying over the Rajpath, in which I am leading in the first helicopter, and my second pilot is Lieutenant Colonel Sudeep, who's flying over the Rajpath. It's a proud moment for all of us to be a part of Republic Day contingent and fly over the Rajpath and see the cheerful crowds below.
Absolutely. And I have with me Lieutenant Colonel Sudeep. Lieutenant Colonel Sudeep, you are flying the second formation. So what kind of preparations have gone in for this Garud formation?
Well, first of all, we've got an excellently trained crew. And before coming out to this place, we've had training sessions at our place. And after coming here, we've flown over the Rajpath, especially using the advanced equipment, avionics on board, and the trained crew. We are able to, put in a good show at the end of the day.
Well, absolutely. Going back to Colonel Vikrant, now sometimes the weather gods are not very kind. Like the last few days. In case there is that kind of situation, so how do you deal with it?
So we have the plan for that in case the weather gods are not permitting us to fly. And generally we have as he covered, the advanced avionics with us. Sometimes that avionics helps us to fly. And if the weather gods are so bad or they are not allowing us to fly, then we have to take a call, and there is a plan in place, and we definitely will be there on the Rajpath.
Well, certainly we also want to. So what's so special about Apache and Indian Army going to fly Apache for the very first time?
It's a special moment. As you can see that we all have in our lives at various times seen that parade on Doordarshan. And now we are being part of that parade. That is a momentous occasion for all of us, and it's a very proud feeling. And flying over the Rajpath, the Apache Indian Army Apaches basically gives us a assurance and the nation's assurance that the government's efforts to modernize the Indian Armed Forces are in track, and we are aiming for modernizing the forces as fast as possible.
Okay. Now let's go to the man who keeps the machine in good shape. Major Ashish, please come here. He is from the EME. Major Ashish, what all precautions do you take to keep the machine in excellent condition?
Okay, now this beast is an absolute killing machine. It is packed with a number of electronics and avionics. And that also makes the maintenance of these machines challenging. However, myself, along with my team of technicians, are highly trained and skilled to take care of the machines and keep them flying.
Okay. Now we go to the co-pilots. I have with me Major Manoj Saraswat and Major Aditya. So what kind of coordination is there when you are there up in the sky?
So firstly, it's a very proud moment for me. I have taken part thrice in the parade, but this time with the Apache helicopters, it becomes very easier because of the advanced avionics and the cameras, mission system fitted. So the task of the co-pilot is actually challenging to maintain the TOTs, the time on the Rajpath. We have to be on the time, the height specified, the speed which is specified. We have to be dot on that. So definitely we are trained for that, and definitely we'll put a good show on the Rajpath.
Major Aditya, when we talk about the speed and height, at what height are you going to fly? What is going to be the duration of the flight?
Okay, so initially we'll be flying at 500 feet AGL. And because the fighter formation is also behind us, and during the final run over the Kartavya Path, we'll be flying at 200 feet AGL, and our speed will be approximately at 100 to 120 kmph in the final flight past.
Okay. Now going once again back to Colonel Vikrant, what kind of conversation goes in when you are there, when you see the crowds cheering from below?
So as I'll tell you first that it is actually a very demanding job, that when we are flying, we hardly have a time to see the crowd. But whenever we are able to do that, it is a very joyous moment for all of us, that the crowd is cheering for us and they are happy to see us there. And I think that is the feeling which we all want to have, and that is why we are in uniform. So it is a great feeling.
Definitely a very proud moment for the Olive Greens. They would be flying Apaches for the very first time, and the Josh is absolutely sky high. With cameraman Uttam in Delhi, this is Vishal Baristo for TT India.
Time now for some sports news. And figure skating, one of the most graceful and technically demanding Olympic winter sports, made its debut at the 6th edition of the Khelo India Winter Games. Combining athletic strength with artistic expression, the sport has opened new doors for young Indian skaters aiming for international recognition. Here's a report, have a look.
Known for its blend of athletic skill and artistic expression, figure skating is opening new avenues for India's winter athletes. Figure skating is an Olympic winter sport that blends power, balance, flexibility, speed and artistry. Athletes perform choreographed routines on ice, set to music, showcasing a series of technical and artistic elements. These include high-flying jumps like the axel, along with spins, footwork and step sequences that demand years of disciplined training.
Figure skating is all about deep edges and outside edges, and the skates, it's like a thin blade, and we have to perform many different elements like jumps and spins and also step choreography while being graceful and resilient, and the judges evaluate us on the basis of the difficulty we do and the choreography and the aesthetic appeal we give to them.
One of the oldest Olympic sports, figure skating has been part of the Winter Olympics since 1908. Globally, skaters begin training at a very young age, mastering both athletic precision and artistic performance. For the first time, Indian skaters are competing under standardized national rules and professional judging systems. Judging in figure skating is based on two key components: technical elements and artistic impression.
Yeah, this is going to be the greatest platform for all the skaters to attend the next highest levels of championship in Winter Games. This is most valuable competition all the skaters would attend till now.
With the inclusion of figure skating in the Khelo India Winter Games, young athletes from across the country are now dreaming bigger, aiming not just for national medals, but for international podiums.
The inclusion of figure skating at the Khelo India Winter Games signals a clear shift in aligning India's winter sports ecosystem with global standards. The move reflects government's intent to expand winter sports and create a structured pathway for Indian athletes to compete globally. In Leh with cameraman Jagmohan, Abhishek Prasad, DD India.
That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.